Alright guys, Scrappy again. So I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. So much reaction to the remarkable OpTic versus Toronto series from last night. Of course, ACHES was giving his perspective on the flank as to what he thinks about this whole superstar debate, but Shotzzy responding in kind, saying that whatever the noise is around the scenes, he still knows what he is capable of as an individual player. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Couple of things in challenges. This is quite worthy of note, especially with many of the teams right now in this league being absolutely terrible. It's, well, to be fair, some of these matches are easy to call, some of them are not so much easy to call. We saw yesterday the interesting Thieves versus Vegas game. Miami Ravens was possibly quite telling in terms of potential changes that might need to be made down the line. Now, there's only one more weekend of matches. It seems rather unlikely any team is going to blow it up now before the major. They'll probably just run it out to the major. But after the major, there's another couple of week break, just like we had after Major 1, and at which time we will see some changes being made, I'm sure of it. No, Doug's team didn't obviously make it for the victory. They, well, basically with Cammy the other day, they won the Challengers Elite, but Doug and the boys fell short. He was basically subbing in. But again, it's FaZe Black back on top here. So Bracket Seas, they of course earlier in the season were with Kremp and Asim. Those two guys went to the league. Now Joe Deceives is there instead on the Thieves bench. And still, if Afro keeps getting slammed in respawns, there will be something to be said there, because I think Thieves play Los Angeles Gorillas next week. So that's a must win. Then they might play Toronto after that to close out their stage. So we'll see how that goes. Rex, though, as well, he's been good lately for sure. And there's been lots of talk actually about Rex potentially being one of the players in the conversation from like an AR perspective to get into the league. So we'll see if that goes anywhere going forwards. There are certainly a few teams that need a slaying power upgrade, I would say, as it presently stands. But yesterday, if you guys didn't see last night's video, Toronto versus OpTic Texas. Of course, OpTic going into this series 5-0. They had had many questionable performances over the last couple of weeks, and I think always online cards, it's a bit, you know, you have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt generally, because, you know, teams, so let's say even Toronto, don't take it as seriously as they will a LAN tournament. Now, does that mean that Ultra weren't trying? No, absolutely not. And I thought this was a really impressive victory of OpTic as a result, at least in terms of the way they got the job done. It was almost the perfect Neslo. We don't see it very often. Almost ever, really, double 6-0s in Search and Destroy. The most famous example, I guess, was FaZe versus Thieves from the Vanguard year, where Octane went 0-12, did he not, over 2 Search and Destroys, they both got 6-0'd in, so that was interesting, for sure, and we don't see back-to-back 6-0s often, and honestly, they nearly did it here against Toronto Ultra, the Major 1 champions that, I mean, they dominated Major 1, right? Like, it wasn't even close. The level that Toronto were operating at during Major 1 was completely different, and maybe on LAN, they can get back to that type of level. I don't think Toronto have necessarily massively regressed. I do think the other teams, especially FaZe, have got better as of the Subliners, as I think have OpTic here, to be fair, in a series like this. But certainly Ultra are way more vulnerable now than they were previously, and let's say after Major 1, I'm not sure any team really played Toronto feeling like they can actually beat them. Like, that's just how dominant they were at Major 1, the levels they had above FaZe in terms of teamwork and everything like that. Like, I'd never seen performances at the first event of the season just as good as Toronto were. It was remarkable. Maybe they can replicate that on LAN again, but I think right now it's going to be far more unlikely to be the case this time around, and these teams, OpTic, Toronto, New York Subliners, not Toronto, FaZe, right? They will have massive confidence now that they can beat Toronto. And, you know, let's say they go to LAN and Toronto get 3-0'd by FaZe. All of a sudden, Ultra will then be in their own heads thinking, okay, maybe we weren't, you know, maybe as good as we thought we were. I don't know. But these are the OpTic boys, of course, getting the victory yesterday. What's funny, by the way, I did want to share this screenshot here because I didn't really talk about it yesterday, but this is when they went up 5-0 in the Terminal Search Game 5. Prid then had a 1 versus 1. It was 1v2, really, but he got the first kill. 1v1 against Scrappy to close out the back-to-back 6-0, and he loses the round. And honestly, like, looking at his face here, you'd think they just lost the Champs Grand Finals, right? So this is pretty funny, right? You can look at it from two angles. Either you think Pred is basically trash talking here by doing this because they were up 5-1 in the Game 5 at this point anyway. So I think it's a pretty funny thing to do. Or, like, he genuinely was frustrated that they didn't get the job done, because I think that was probably more like what it was. You don't get many opportunities to 6-0 a team like Toronto in Search and Destroy, and to 3 of them in the Control as well, which would have been the 15-0 Neslo. So yeah, Dashy wasn't so happy about it, but of course they played incredibly well in the series. Now, Envoy had a really tough time with that final hard point, or that final Search and Destroy so in the Terminal, and to be fair, I'm pretty sure the map 4 hard point as well. I don't know if Ultra will go back to Terminal. They clearly hate the map. I'm not sure OpTic massively like the map, but to be fair, Ultra don't really play it either. So they put it in for the Game 5 yesterday in this series. OpTic dominated them on it, so I'm not sure we're going to see Ultra going back there anytime soon, to be fair. Nestor, of course, himself giving the credit for the 2-3-5. But the catalyst in some ways here was Shotzzy, right? Certainly in that control, the swing game, he had that ridiculous takeover, and we've seen that from Shotzzy basically every single series he's played so far this stage. We know that he can be a bit up and down. There's always this debate about all-star versus superstar, and we'll get into it in a second because I think there's a bit more nuance to it. It really depends what your definition is and the way that you define these type of players. Because not everyone can be a superstar, for sure, but there are certain players that their play styles, to me, just kind of fit the mold. So we'll get into that. Kenny as well says some bad setups in the hardpoint though, because of course they did lose both hardpoints in this series, which will be a bit of a point of concern, but still, I'm sure that OpTic is still pretty confident in their hardpoint play. It's, you know, their search and destroy improvements that they must have made some improvements to 6060 Toronto. Yes, it was a Karachi search that OpTic are good at. We talk about OpTic search and destroy map pool. They're great at Karachi. Everybody knows this. They seem to be pretty good at Rio search. They've only played it once against Vegas, but I think they beat them on that like 6-2. Those are two maps. They've not seemed good at Terminal until yesterday. They're not good at high rise, and they're okay at invasion, but not especially good. So like from an overall OpTic S&D map pool perspective, you know, there are some weaknesses there that a team like FaZe, I think, would definitely get at. Toronto didn't exploit that as they might have done, but I did think the 6-0 on the Karachi was really impressive because Toronto have been doing that to other teams this season. They've 6-0'd plenty of teams, I'm pretty sure, on Karachi search. So for OpTic to do it back to them, I thought was really quite something, and obviously OpTic also beat, very close though, to be fair, but they beat Boston on that map the other day, and that was a Boston team that had, just before that, dominated Minnesota Rock on that map. So, looks like OpTic are really good at that map right now. Look, this team should be good at search and destroy, right? You look at the players, and it's interesting, I guess, the parallels between Kenny's teams over the last couple of years. Let's be honest, right? Thieves, even their World Championship winning team, terrible at search and destroy for quite a long time. But as the season progressed, they finally put the pieces together, and that was the key, really, them sorting out their S&D to them winning the World Championship and becoming as good as they did. So I think that's the feeling here that OpTic might want to have. And I don't know if it's just a Kenny thing, because it's not like he's a bad search and destroy player, but for whatever reason, it just seems like his teams take some time to figure out search and destroy. If that's now starting to happen, that is going to be, of course, a key catalyst. Really, it's all about the LAN environment, right? Not sure why it's been lowercase here by the league tweeting this out. It looks like they're talking about Mr. Ian and Abel. And to be fair, there has been one player that on OpTic over the last couple of years has had some discrepancy between their online performances and their LAN performances, and we'll see if that maintains this time around, because this guy right now is playing unbelievable COD. I know that Shotzzy gives credit to his teammates here. Teammates are grows. One more match next weekend, and that match is going to be a banger as well, by the way, because OpTic are 6-0, New York Subliners are 6-0. The winner will go 7-0. So the winner of that one is going to, of course, lock up the #1 seed going into the major, but yeah, especially that control yesterday was ridiculous, and Shotzzy doing it against another top 4 team. There's been talk, oh, well, Shotzy's just farming stats against the worst teams, but yeah, watching this guy's POV is something different. Close out the series, +10, but it really was that map 3 where he just broke all sorts of records. You know, KD in control of the season, kill streak on the season at 13. However, there has been some debate on this, right? So everybody knew that ACHES was going to go off on the main stage about this on the flank last night, discussing his perspective. Bit of a Freudian slip here as well. What he's trying to say is Simp, Cell, Pred, and Scrappy as his 4 superstars in the league. I might throw a HyDra in there, but I guess for this game he's not going to do so. So that's what he tries to say, and he does correct it later. But yeah, he actually, maybe a bit of a Freudian slip here, right, put Shotzzy into the mix as well, and then I'll also share Shotzy's response.
Not fit that criteria.
Okay,
I'm sorry, he doesn't.
Okay, then
but you know who does? Pred, Shotzzy, Simp, Cellium. Those guys fit that criteria.
We lost that round. Prepare for the next one.
Bro, chat. Listen, dude. Oh my god. You guys in your like aches and shit, bro. I don't think what you understand. I don't think you guys understand like
Switching sides.
how it goes, dude. As like a fucking, he's good to have in the scene because like, bro, you need someone that making you need someone saying like not brain dead shit, but like just takes that like are just fucking either insane or like fucking weird. Because if you just have some casual guys saying like, oh, you know, pretty good, feel like that, like the show's not going to be entertaining. The scene has nothing to talk about. This whole thing with me being a superstar, I could give two fucks what they talk about.
Enemies at Alpha.
Because I know what I'm capable of. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit doesn't affect me. Oh, fuck.
So I think it does depend on what your definition is of these superstar level players, because I kind of agree with ACHES that, you know, not everyone can be a superstar. Having, you know, like 15 players that are superstars because they're all on the top 4 teams doesn't really work. Do teams like OpTic and FaZe, like just given the talent, have multiple superstars? I think you can certainly argue that they do. And from my perspective, it's not just about the KD and the numbers when it comes to Shotzzy. Like, he can play well statistically, and people say, okay, no, he's playing like a superstar level. But for me, it's more about like the eye test and the way that he plays the game, because watching Shotzzy's POV when he plays as well as he has done lately, it's just like, how can this guy not be considered a superstar? Like, nobody plays the game in the same way that Shotzzy plays the game. And just that level of talent and raw ability, even if his numbers aren't always spectacular, like, that is superstar level ability for sure. And ACHES' perspective is that, well, you know, you can be a superstar in one game and not in another, and maybe that's true to some degree, but yeah, I think he's been playing at a superstar level absolutely as of late. ACHES, of course, follows up and says that, you know, well, come on, 20% of the league can't be superstars. He then replies to this one as well that puts together superstars, stars, says that, you know, Attach and CleanX should be in the star category for sure. Maybe he'd put like CleanX further down and move Attach further up, which I think, you know, Attach should be in the star category the way that he's playing at the moment. But whatever you think about this debate, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because as Shotzzy's concerns, you know, he doesn't care what ACHES is saying. And I thought, honestly, a great response from Shotzzy as well, because he gets the point across that people like ACHES are massively influential and important within the scene. It's good to have guys like ACHES that are going to give their takes, and, you know, maybe they're going to be hot takes, which usually they are, and they're willing to, you know, like ACHES is willing to make big predictions, and sometimes they work out well, sometimes they don't, and when they don't, he has good excuses as to why he was, well, he's never wrong, obviously, it's just early, or whatever the case is, right? So I think that it's good that Shotzzy recognizes the importance of that type of content, this type of show, even if it means the players are going to get criticized, which, you know, some players get defensive when they get criticized, but it's good that Shotzzy understands the game, the way that this is being played, but also, you know, he doesn't let it affect his gameplay. He knows how good he is, he knows how much talent he possesses, he knows how much gas he's got from other players that he's played with in the past, and, you know, what he's capable of achieving within the league going forwards, and he hasn't always been at the level that he knows he's capable of for a little bit of time now. We'll see come LAN whether he can replicate that, but I thought this is pretty remarkable. Notable map performances this stage. So they're 6-0 in the stage so far. These are just some of the maps that Shotzzy has had, in which he has pretty much single-handedly won them the game. Because this is what you got to understand with Shotzzy. If he's got a 1 KD, that is like a 1.2 in terms of impact. If he's got like a 2 KD, or 2.68 KD, or whatever it was, 3.25 KD in this 26-8 performance yesterday, the amount of impact in that, in Shotzzy's playstyle, is just absurd. So you look at some of these numbers here, the maps that they've played so far this stage. Funny that against Boston he had like 3 standout maps, against Ravens he had 3 separate standout maps. Just ridiculous performances from him so far. Whether he can replicate that come LAN is a different question. And I'm sure that ACHES is going to be ready to give his perspective as of when the time comes. But very much interested in your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.